We're live.
We're live, pal.
I've been tasked with doing the intro, which is probably fitting because me and JT Energy are practically best friends now. I've worked with him many times on t-shirt designs. We slip into each other's DMs all the time,
So I've heard, yeah.
Yeah. His physique is ridiculous. His
it
teeth
is.
are like a Colgate commercial. I don't know what's going on there.
Sorry, Rivers. I just want to say before I forget, my mum absolutely fancies JT Energy. She saw the thumbnail before when we interviewed you last, and she was like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "Oh, that's JT," and she was like, "He's gorgeous." So yeah, you've got an admirer in my mum. So.
He's pulling in that MILF crowd.
Yes, yes.
Well, I don't know. That was a real hodgepodge of an introduction. So yeah, JT Energy. How the devil are you?
Hey, I'm great. I'm glad to know I have fans of all persuasions and ages all across the world.
You definitely do.
I don't necessarily. If I remember right, I feel like that thumbnail from last time, that might be one of the best pictures I've ever taken in my whole life. As far as like trying to say I'm a professional wrestler with a great body, right?
Yeah. Don't do this. Don't be patronizing. What's this? Great body.
During that time of my career, I would say I was being insane when it came to trying to look a certain way, from the way that I ate, the way that I trained, the amount of tanning that I was doing to get that kind of glow that you could see in that picture. I don't necessarily think I look the same way that I did then, but I do still fancy that I have an okay physique. In that picture, I look like I should be in Vegas doing a striptease with the Magic Mike guys.
Yeah.
But I've slowly evolved my character over time to be maybe a little less racy than when I was the 6-star booty. So the 6-star booty transitioned to the different things I've gone through, being the unsolved mystery now. It's not quite as over the top as I was during that time, but I can at least look back at that picture and be like, man, we did some good work. I think
you did.
People were very excited
I've noticed,
during that time period of my life.
Over the last few years, that you've gone from like this kind of over the top kind of caricature heel type. You're quite there's certain levels of sinister going on at the moment. Like I've often seen it kind of coming out with masks, and like there's like a sinister edge I've found as well. Like that T-shirt where you had like the Jack in the Box of like your old character coming out of it, and like your new, with a Riddler gear, inspired gear and stuff like that. So I found that there's something kind of like slightly evil going on. So I don't know,
Yeah, no, and that was the thing. Like, I definitely the way that I look at professional wrestling and I will look at pro wrestlers, I try to always think to myself, like, what was the evolution of my favorite professional wrestlers? How did they go from one look to another?
Mm-hmm.
And I have to realize that I'm 6 years deep into my career now. And I think every time that I change my gear, it has to reflect some type of change within my character.
Sure.
And I love to come up with taglines and signature this and different logos here, because I want that to evolve with me. And going from the Riddler gear, which that's absolutely what it was during that time period, I was letting my hair go crazy. I had this inspiration from like Jim Carrey in the Batman movies when he was the Riddler. And he was like, if you watch him in his final form of that movie, he is just absolutely outlandish. And that's where I took a lot of my character from. And I recently finally got some new gear, and I've also in a couple different promotions that I work for, I've started to become a baby face, if you want to.
That's interesting.
If you want to classify me as that.
On the subject of your new gear, it's funny that you're saying that you're becoming a baby face, because when I saw you in that singlet, I was like, I want to kick this guy's ass. It kind of reminded me of like old school heels that would wear like outlandish outfits and be like, oh, I want to kick this guy's ass. Why is he wearing hot pink? It's like, that kind of thing. So it's funny that you say you're becoming a babyface, because as soon as I saw it, I was like, he's doing the best heel work of his career. he's dressing like an asshole, and I just, so.
Well, so in you can always like compare it to the easiest person to compare it to is The Rock. because at a certain point, The Rock was wearing his $500 t-shirts and coming out and cutting these promos, but the whole crowd wanted to say everything he was saying. They wanted to be involved in who his character was. Like he can make you love him or make you hate him, because if he let you in on what he was doing, you were like, yes, we finally got him. We get to support our guy. And a couple of the places that I've worked for, it's always been this tiptoe scenario of like, how do we make you someone all the fans love when they've hated you for so long, because you're so good at being just this narcissistic piece of garbage that invokes those, like you said, they just want to kick my ass. And then trying to tell people like, no, it's okay. Like JT Energy is and has been a certain thing for a very, very long time. But when I start to mesh a little bit more of who I am as a person into my professional wrestling gimmick, I think you start to see a JT Energy that you can actually like and that you can get behind.
Okay, that's interesting you say that, because I feel like you hit the nail on the head there. When you have a heel like an MJF or The Rock, when you start to realize that there's parts of that actual person in that character, even as a heel, I think eventually, after enough time, the fans want a reason to cheer you because you're so good as a wrestler and doing your job as a heel. I feel like the fans just look for a reason to cheer you. Like it's happening right now with MJF. Whether that guy wants to be a face or heel, he's getting cheered because the fans want to find a reason to cheer for him, even though he's an absolute bastard as a character. And with yourself, I feel like that's the same thing. Like they can't deny you're a talented wrestler. You've been a bad guy for so long. I feel like with you, they're just going to be like, just give us a reason to cheer you, like for any reason.
Yeah, and that's what I'm kind of relishing right now. Is I'm trying to make sure that I'm myself and I'm not getting lost in a character anymore. I am letting myself become JT Energy. And there's certain parts of myself that when I go out there, I want to make eye contact with as many of the people in the crowd as possible. I want them to know that I see them and I appreciate that they're part of the experience, whatever it might be. And when you look at someone and you point them out and you say, you, specifically you, that person is almost like taken aback, like, me, why me? What did I do? And if I'm a bad guy and I point you out specifically, they're like, they feel personally attacked. Like I didn't do anything. And I'm like, no, it was you. Absolutely. Yeah. And they remember you because you made them a part of your match, that part of the show. And when I've had the chance to, like the night that I last flipped the script and I was like full on like handshake, hug with another top babyface who put me over and said, this is the guy, this is who we've been waiting for. Like so many of the people that had booed me so heavily for so long came up to the merch table being like, high fives, handshakes, like, let me buy your stuff. Like they wanted that time to come up and celebrate with you and be like, yes, you're finally here. We're ready to celebrate and take you to the next level. Because I've had a good amount of success and a good amount of accolades with the heel portion of my career, but riding that babyface high to the next level is like a whole different experience. You want to be a part of the ride as your guy chases the championship and tries to gain what he's never had before in certain places. So I think that's what I'm really excited, because when people feel like they're the wind beneath your wings that lift you up, they want to be there for the ride. And I think a lot of people are very excited about that portion of my career that they might be able to help me with and bring me through. Plus it's allowing me to learn so many different parts of professional wrestling that I've never been able to soak in because I've been this heel, I've been this bad guy for so long, that when I'm jumping on the other portion of figuring out who I am out there, you can still be the same person, but you just have to take your mannerisms and take your body language and do things a little bit differently to make sure that you're still creating that full experience for the fans.
Do you think that any gimmick can work as a face and a heel if done right? Like, if you have that connection, do you feel like there's gimmicks that just can't work as face or heel, or do you feel it like any can work if done right?
If done right, I do believe you can go either way. And I think that's the beauty of it, because the people really want to feel like they are the ones in control, or the
Yeah.
ones that are holding on. And if you look at someone like, let's say, a Stone Cold, when he finally flipped the script and did go heel, everyone was like, oh man, like, we don't want him to be a heel because he's been our ass kicker for so long.
Yeah.
But that allowed him to turn into one of the things that he's most known for. And that's creating the moments backstage where he started to sing with Kurt Angle and just play along. And he created the what during that time period when he was the heel portion of his career. And I think people were there for the ride and they were really enjoying it, even though they hated everything that he was doing because that wasn't their Stone Cold, but they still like appreciated what he was doing. And when he finally came back and he turned babyface again and was just this old Stone Cold, he was the ass kicker. He brought the things that he relished during his time as a heel and just embraced it on the other side of the spectrum. That's like the fans nowadays. They really don't want to maybe embrace Roman Reigns, but you can't deny every time you watch him. It took a while, but now when he gets on the mic and he yells wherever he's at, acknowledge me, everyone wants to put their hand in the air, whether they like him or not, because they want to be a part of that experience.
Sure.
And the stuff that they're doing on TV week after week, I don't even personally care the next time that Roman Reigns wrestles, because the stuff that he's doing with the bloodline is so over the top and so great that I know I'll eventually get that next match. And because he has this lengthy reign behind him, I know it could end at any time. And it's just one of those things where I'm just there for the story. And that's all I really care about. And that's what I try to convey on the independent scene, because that one night that you're going to give me, whether it's a 10-minute wrestling match or promo or the main event, whatever it might be, like, I want to give people that small experience, because that's what I can create. I'm not an over the top high flyer. I'm not a great grappler. I am just me. I'm my character. I'm JT Energy, and I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at.
Yeah, that's good. You brought up the bloodline. We were just talking about that before you came on, and personally, right now, I'm sure you might agree, I think it's one of the most compelling bits of wrestling at the moment, and you kind of summarized it perfectly. We don't even need there to be wrestling matches for this to be good, and that's when it's a good story. You're going to get the big payoff at the end. The receipt for whatever it is going to be amazing. Roman's going to get his comeuppance at some point, and we're just waiting for that to happen. But we're enjoying the ride, and fans aren't complaining about it for the first time. Most people are unanimously happy with this story. And I think all parts of this story are firing on all cylinders. Sammy's amazing. Jay's facial expressions, incredible. But not once have we been speaking about how good the matches were, because it's not about the matches. It's about the story and the ride.
I can't remember Roman Reigns' last match.
Exactly. Exactly.
I mean, it was. Yeah.
I mean, my memory is shocking. Like,
it was. I think we got. I don't remember if it's been a SmackDown or a Raw, but I know we got our Clash at the Castle.
Drew McIntyre.
Oh yeah,
but I mean, even if I look back at it, I know the match was hard hitting and it was great, but like, it was one of those moments where WWE built up enough hype that you thought maybe Drew could have this miracle moment right there. And then when it didn't happen, it still felt like it didn't necessarily matter. It didn't feel like Drew dropped down a notch. It felt like they built up to a great main event. They delivered on that great main event. And now you're just kind of like, okay, that was great. I'm glad we got that portion of the story. What's next for both of these guys?
Yes. Do you feel like we're looking at a huge babyface run for an underdog Sami Zayn in the future? Or are you just going to be happy to see where this goes? Because it could go so many ways right now.
That's the beauty of it. When you establish a character, whether it be good or bad, he's riding the line, right? He's hanging out with the bad guys, but because of the stuff he's doing, the crowd treats him like a baby face.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like all the people around him are looking at him like, you keep doing this stuff that the people like, and we don't like that. But they also like treat him kind of like the little stepbrother. And the things that he's creating are just these amazing things, because I can look over his shoulder and I'm watching Jimmy's face in the background. Jimmy's just a background character, but his facials and the way that he's reacting to everything are just as important to the story as me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even down to him and Jimmy have a secret handshake. And that just adds such a little intricacy to the story. Like, him and Jimmy are close. They've got a secret handshake. Jay hates that. And it just adds so much more fuel to it. Just the little details. I absolutely love it when a storyline has some depth to it.
And honestly, this year, one of my favorite moments, I love that I catch myself being a wrestling fan still to this day, because there's certain stuff I'll watch and I'll nitpick and I roll my eyes at just from being a performer now. But the night after WrestleMania, when we got our Kevin Owens, Steve Austin blow off, and the first thing I see after WrestleMania is the start of the Ezekiel character with Kevin Owens, I could have cared less what was happening in the ring. The idea that we had a guy shave his face, be a completely new person, and another guy say, you're this guy, and that guy denying it, and then building a story out of it. I didn't know what, I had no idea where it was going. And I was so excited about it because it was so pro wrestling, like only in this world. Otherwise, you can look at like the Marvel universe or the DC universe, and you have to suspend your disbelief when you're watching that stuff. And the small things like that, every time I see it, I go, this is insane. It's so outlandish that I love it, because I can't experience this anywhere else. But it's live and they're making it up on the go, and they have somewhere to go with this. But like, eventually I have a feeling we'll get back around to it. But you also know now that Elias always has two characters in his back pocket. He can be Elias for the next 6 months. At the Royal Rumble, he can come out as Elias, run to the back, shave his face, come out as Ezekiel, and
that's going to happen.
Lose their minds. They'll lose their minds.
Yeah. That's absolutely going to happen. Yeah, you've just predicted the next Rumble spot for Ezekiel and Elias.
It's insane. I don't know why Elias could be number one. Guess who number 30 is?
I love that.
The whole match to do it, and you start with the big pop and you end with the big pop, and there's a story in between, and we'll follow it for the ride. But it's those little intricacies just to like really give those people that come out the experience that they paid for. And that's the stuff that you never forget.
That's pro wrestling. That's pro wrestling. Yeah.
Exactly.
And he could eliminate Kevin Owens as well and really drive him nuts. Because one part I liked about that story was like, why did Kevin Owens care so much that this guy was pretending to be somebody else? He's like,
exactly.
admit it, and he wouldn't. And then he just drove him nuts, Why did he care so much? It was quite funny. It was funny.
I love that. I absolutely love it. And it's like you said, sometimes the best pro wrestling is not even what happens in the ring. I remember when I was younger, I used to really be one of these work rate smart marks, like who was like, if it wasn't in the Tokyo Dome, I didn't think it was a great match or something, And then I realized, like, as I got older, I was like, the things that I've always enjoyed in wrestling have actually been the stories. And the ring, the in-ring work is as important, but it's not. I don't know how to explain. I don't know how to explain it. It's like in any other sport or medium, like in ice hockey. The ice hockey is the main thing. It's not what goes on behind the scenes or the aftermatch interviews or anything. But in pro wrestling, the promos and the story and everything else are just as important as the in-ring. And it wouldn't be the same without it. And some of the things that have happened in the last few years, my favorite moments have been, for example, Bray Wyatt returning. The pop that he got was insane. And I love hearing that natural, organic crowd reaction, because there's nothing like a wrestling crowd pop, for something unexpected or someone returning. And Bray's return was incredible. What did you think of Bray returning? Did you get goosebumps as well when he came back?
The way that my mind works around Bray Wyatt is, with Bray Wyatt, you, at this point, with how in depth he has thought about so many different portions of his career, the way that he portrays himself every time, it's not the evolution of a character. It is a totally different character almost every single time. It's the same guy in the same vessel, but you feel like he's being inhabited by these different things. And when he did come back, WWE, with the production that they put behind the stories, especially, you can tell when the performers care. Someone came to the table with a vision, and a vision that should come across like a movie, which it did. And when you started to see those small things unfold, the week to week teases with the QR codes, they put those things there because they know how wrestling fans work. They knew somebody was going to dig, and they needed the story. They had to figure out what's next. What can I talk about online? Who's going to break it first? And when you finally saw all those actual manifestations of the characters that were previously puppets, and then you get the evolution of switching to this big door that busts open, and all you have to see is that lantern in the dark. It's a movie. They created a live movie on TV. And when you're there in person, it might not necessarily come across like that. But if you're sitting at home, they understand that there are millions of people that are sitting at home they're watching this live. They're going to put this clip on YouTube. It's going to be a GIF on Twitter, and they shot it perfectly.
Yeah.
And week to week, I don't, at this point, I'm not worried about who Bray Wyatt is wrestling. I'm worried about what is the evolution? Who are these characters? Why are these characters here? Are these characters eventually going to wrestle? Are there people under masks? Are the puppets eventually going to turn into people? Like, there's so many different things that have been hinted about as far as like rumors with Bray Wyatt. Is I don't know what to expect. And that's what I like. And when I don't have an idea of what's going to happen, whether you go left or right, in the meantime, it allows my mind to work. And if my mind's working, then I'm excited because I'm telling myself a story and I'm seeing if I'm right. Yeah. I think that's what people want. It's the same idea when you have these two wrestlers that are going to have this main event. In your head, that's why people make predictions. They want to see if they're right. They want to know if they are smart enough to create the story in their brain, and then see if they came up with the same way or the same tale that WWE is saying, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to put it out to millions of people. And if you got it right, especially when it comes down to the intricacies of the small stuff, like you're sitting at home telling all your friends, I knew it. I told you that was going to happen. Yeah. And then you feel like you're an even smarter pro wrestling fan because you're thinking of different things all the time.
It's genius. It really is so clever.
Yeah. You're making the fans do the work in their brains. And then that's also the people that when they're wrong, they get on Twitter and they go, no, they should have done it this way. It would have been so much better if it was that way. And then you have all these people over here that guessed it right, that are battling with the people that guessed it wrong on which is better and why it's better. And that's how you continually get people talking about pro wrestling, is because everybody wants to go, no, it's good this way, it's good that way. And then you have
everybody loves a fantasy book, don't they? They love a fantasy book.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
that's that's a big reason to why I watch wrestling, is because it's more fun than sometimes fantasy booking than it is watching the actual product sometimes, you know. So,
absolutely. Yes. That's the exciting part of it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like you said, it's the fans, they love fantasy booking, but they also love trying to be right and break the code. Like, I had someone telling me when the White Rabbit was going on, there was like, oh, you're an idiot if you think it's Bray Wyatt. It's definitely Karrion Kross, you know. And they were getting really angry at me. And when they debuted and it was Bray Wyatt, I went back and liked his tweet saying it was Karrion Kross, just so he'd be reminded about how silly he sounded for getting angry about it. Perfect. Which is quite petty, but it reminded me a lot of the Sabres 222. If you remember that, with Chris Jericho coming back. Yeah. I was 18 back when that happened, and I remember I was on YouTube all the time inspecting the video frame by frame to see if there was like any snippet of the code which would give us a clue. And it was so exciting for those months leading up to it. And eventually you knew it was Jericho, but you wasn't disappointed about it because you wanted Jericho to come back. And it's the same with this. We had a really good idea it was Bray, but you wasn't 100%, so you were still curious. And when Bray did come back, you wasn't disappointed. You were just happy to see him. And like you said, I think they played their part in this perfectly. It was done.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been done any better, I don't think.
Well, and when you think of that return, Chris Jericho is amazing as far as the way that he thinks of himself, because he's always been Chris Jericho, but he reinvents himself in a much different way than Bray Wyatt reinvents himself. And when he came back during that time period of leaking thing, he was using the internet to his advantage for what he knew it could be. And by playing into that Save Us Y2J, when he did re-debut and he came out, got this huge pop, and all he did was say, "Come on." And he did it for like 5 minutes, 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Way too long. And then he left, and everyone was like, "What happened? What just happened? We don't know what that was." He wasn't a good guy. He wasn't a bad guy. He just showed up and then he left. And what better way to get a bunch of people talking?
It was so good. It was
give them
so
what
good.
they want and then do nothing.
Because he came out and it was so over the top, wasn't it? It's like, come on. And he was like, I want to cheer you, but there's something not quite right here. But I don't know what it is, but it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
He sat in that awkwardness and made it more awkward. And everyone knew it was getting awkward. And then they were like, every time he asked for another big come on, it was like, are we still doing this? Like, why are you talking? Why are you telling us why you're here? You said it said right on the screen, save us. Like, what's the story? And then we didn't get it. And then we got some of the best heel Jericho work of his whole career when he came back and he did that for us. So
yes, it was a great time for Chris Jericho fans, because I really do think that heel work, when he was the world champion on SmackDown, some of the best work of his career. I would pay good money to see that incarnation of Jericho come back in AEW, do something similar. I really would. As much as I love Jericho in AEW, I want to see that Jericho come back.
That is the beauty of Chris. He has found his fountain of youth, so he knows he can look any way he wants. Yeah. And he is the Lionheart, essentially Chris Jericho right now, running through all the former Ring of Honor champions. But that eventually will end. And you know that when that does end, we're gonna get another version of Chris Jericho.
Of course,
it's what he establishes immediately when something ends. Within a week, he's there. He's a different thing, and he lets you know, this is where I'm going. This is the character I am. This is the story I'm telling. And the fans are just like, well, okay, we got another Jericho. And then they put out an appreciation tweet about him saying, he does it again. Jericho doesn't age. He's putting on these crazy matches and helping AEW rise to the top and never creates any drama because he's Chris Jericho, our savior.
That's it. And I think
speaking of AEW, how did you kind of you were on AEW Dark fairly recently? So how did that come about?
Well, so
I marked out. I was like, "There's my guy."
Oh man! All right, so a while back during the pandemic era, a couple of the Black and Brave graduates, they found their way onto AEW Dark. And of course, I asked them, I go, not to be nosy, I'm just wondering, who do I contact, at least to start the ball? I have to get the ball rolling. I'm not the type of performer that sits at home and sends countless emails saying, watch my matches, check out this, look at this. I will just introduce myself and be as professional as possible in the world of professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. So I had shot the person I needed to an email, and I got a response back saying, thank you for sending along your information. We just don't have anything right now. We will reach out in the future. And I said, well, okay, at least I tried. I got things rolling as far as what could possibly turn into something. So I sit here, I wait, I keep myself busy with professional wrestling. I wait at least, I want to say it was like a year. And I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? I've seen more people go back for AEW. I'm still biding my time. I looked and checked out when I had last sent an email. and it was at least a year ago. And I thought to myself, I'm like, you know what? I should send another email here pretty soon just to check in, see what dates they have coming up, let them know I can be available in those areas. And I swear, within 2 weeks, I get an email saying AEW would like to invite you to this date. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, what a way to like remind yourself that like, hey, you should reach out and start like manifesting something in your head, and then it's there. And it's not like it was in Iowa. It's not like it was in Chicago. It was in Minneapolis. So I thought to myself, of course, I can make Minneapolis work. That's no problem. And a couple other people that I knew were going to be a part of those dark tapings as well, because the way that AEW did it that night is you get your AEW dark elevation matches taped ahead of time. You have your live Dynamite, and then right after that, you tape Rampage. And so I was lucky enough during that time period when I sent in my stuff. I got to go up to the Target Center in Minneapolis, and I think kind of what you do is you sit in the back and you bring all your gear, whatever, you keep your fingers crossed, and you know that they're going to write out the match card, and you're just like praying and hoping, like, what do I get to do? Who do I get to wrestle? And the gentleman I got to team up with, the Buns of Steel, Jay Fowler, me and him have like our own history right here in the Midwest. We've had plenty of matches, because at one point it was the 6-Star Booty against the Buns of Steel, the Battle of the Booties. So we had our own program that had happened many years previous, and he's been doing great work all across the Midwest. And when I saw that it was going to be me and him that were going to team up against the Acclaimed, I was like, amazing, man. How cool is this? Not only do we get to do this, but if someday we want to do more past this, like, we have a lovely built-in story, don't we? And so when we got to have our match at the time period, I had no idea how over the Acclaimed were getting. And when we came out to the ring and they played the Acclaimed's music, I looked at him, I go, oh, we're in trouble. They are over. And I didn't realize that once Max comes out and he does the rap, and then they get in there, like, and they hit, that was like right as like the Scissor Me was blowing up. I feel like it was right on the cusp, because right after that, it went to the moon and everybody was doing Scissor Me, and now they're like the hottest thing on the tag team wrestling scene. And when I look back at it, I'm like, I can't believe that's who we got to wrestle and have that experience, because Max Caster and Anthony Bowens are great wrestlers. They're great guys, and they understand what they have. And the fact that they're with Billy Gunn, it's, if I look at what the Acclaim does, and then I think about what the New Age Outlaws did, it's the same thing in a different era, because Road Dogg would come out, give you the same thing every time. Billy hits his tagline, and then you have a match. But like, the New Age Outlaws weren't anything special, but they were over. Everybody wanted to say, oh, you didn't know, and then hit the big suck it at the end. And that's what we get in 2022. But yeah, I went out there, we had a quick match, but it was great, because when I think about it, I always tried to like tell myself why the experiences I had in pro wrestling were so important, and how lucky I was to be in certain scenarios. So if I look at that whole match card for AEW Dark Elevation, there's plenty of people that got to wrestle awesome matches, but we were the one team that not only did we get to wrestle a match, we got the full-on rap cut on us. Did. And people will search out those raps from week to week to hear them. And I found somebody who made like a TikTok of all the different little things and then spliced it together with our faces and what he was saying. And I thought to myself, I'm like, we got the extra little bit that no one else did, because I had him cut the rap on me and call me a broke ass Christopher Daniels.
He did, yes.
And that's all I needed.
I loved how you kind of wrote on that. Oh, you immediately had merch coming out straight away with like,
you have to. You have to. Like, you have to realize what someone took from you and then capitalize on it for the small time period that you're going to be able to have it. And if I look back, I did the same thing when I was on Monday Night Raw. I got the match where I got to have the candy canes in my trunks. And then I capitalized on that. I made a t-shirt right into it because it's nothing that's part of my character, but it is a moment in time I have to acknowledge so that way people understand I'm not just losing on TV and then like trying to like push it to the side like I'm better than that. No, it's part of professional wrestling and who I am. And if I'm a broke ass Christopher Daniels, then I'm a broke ass Christopher Daniels. And I will go ahead and admit that and take all those accolades every day because Christopher Daniels is a great wrestler.
It could be worse. Yeah.
So it could be worse. It could be a lot worse, you know. So
I did love that rap. I've got the lyrics in front of me. I mean, it's one of those things where Max can put you down, but also put you over at the same time. It was with Chris Jericho when he called he called him one of his opponent Pineapple Pete. Sugar D called him Pineapple Pete. The best thing he did was call him Pineapple Pete because his bookings went up. He had merchandise, people calling him Pineapple Pete. He got return bookings. He had a blow-off match with Jericho. You know, you can put someone down while also lifting them up at the same time, and especially in pro wrestling. And with this, you did the exact right thing. You thought, right, he's put the spotlight on me for a second, even with an insult. I'll make some merchandise. And that's the beauty of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And even though we said, the other dude can't handle looking like a broadcast Christopher Daniels, great bar, but also you went with it. And now I'm thinking as well, if you had a return match with him down the line, what else would he have to say about you? Where would he go? So what was your reaction when you heard that line? Did you know that was coming, or did you hear it for the first time then?
I heard it for the first time then. But so again, I love to look, this is my career, right? And I know it from start to finish. And when he called me a broke ass Christopher Daniels, like I laughed and I just kind of rolled my eyes, right?
Yeah.
But when I was on Raw and I got destroyed by Eric Rowan, what am I going to do? I want to see what people are saying about me. So I go to YouTube, I click on the comments, and I just start scrolling. And the number of people that said, who is this Christopher Daniels wannabe? And then fast forward, and I have another guy, didn't talk to me about anything at all. And he goes, broke ass Christopher Daniels. And I'm like, this is what it was supposed to be. He didn't ask me anything about this, but I put out a picture at one point on my Instagram, I think. And there's a picture of Christopher Daniels, I believe in TNA. He's just got his arms on the ropes. And then a picture of me standing in the ring when I was on Monday Night Raw. And it is us doing the exact same pose in the ring there. And if you look at what I'm wearing now, and I have that singlet gear, who else wears a singlet top? Christopher Daniels does.
Yeah.
So I'm playing into those little things as I go. And if I ever had the opportunity to have a singles match with Max Caster, I'm going to do something out of Christopher Daniels' arsenal to say, am I a broke ass Christopher Daniels now? Because you have to play into those things that make sense to the story, because that's what people have to be drawn to the show for. They have to know that this person doesn't like this person because of this, and this is why they're fighting. And if I ever had the chance to stand in the ring with Max, I know he's going to cut a rap on me, and you just have to take it, and then you have to capitalize on it. And I did my little bit of what I knew I could do. I wasn't going to invest an arm and a leg into merchandise, but I also made sure that I was going to make one thing. I was going to sell it in a short run. And when it was sold out, it was sold out. And I got my money back. I made some money on it. And now I'm on to the next part of my career.
This is why you're one of the smartest men in independent wrestling. you get it. Like, I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass. You really do understand, I think, what's required from a professional wrestler and how best to capitalize on the smaller moments that you create for yourself and that created for you. I really do think if you keep that up, you're going to, hopefully, I want to see you back on AEW. I'm sure Rivers does too. Rivers sent me a screenshot when it happened saying, my boy's on AEW. And honestly, we've never so quickly gone to see a match. And the rap was great. The match was short, but it did exactly what it needed to do. Everyone came out looking better than when they went in. And surely that's the whole point of Dark and Elevation anyway.
And I love to see you do. I love to see you do well, because I do feel like I know you a little bit, because obviously we've chatted and stuff online and whatnot. So like when I see you doing great things, I'm just like, I'm invested in it. I'm just like, and I get like I don't know, I feel like all proud and stuff. And just like,
Well, like we're making history right now, like, because me and Rivers have talked a ton over the last couple of years via DMs or different ideas and collaborated on different stuff. I have never spoke a word to this man until right now today.
Is this your best?
We have never ever talked in
only
person.
Over text. Yeah. And again, I want to thank you as well for like getting in touch with me all that time back and kind of asking me to do a t-shirt for you, because it blew my mind. Like you and Dan Housen, like within like this period of the same week, kind of got in touch and were just like, yeah, do me a t-shirt. And I'm like, yeah, cool, all right, I'm just some dickhead who doodles. I'm just a dickhead that doodles on my iPad, and then all of a sudden I've got like legit pro wrestlers wanting merch, and it's just
he says this. He tries to act humble, but when he's out and stuff and he introduces himself, he goes, "Oh, Rivers Johansson, PWT artist." It's the first thing he goes for. You might have heard of me.
You might have heard of me. You might have seen my work on Pro Wrestling Tees. I'm best friends with JT Energy. I don't know if you know this, but like, I'm working on like a stalker gimmick for when I make my turn to pro wrestling. I'm going to be like JT Stalker.
I'd love to see that.
That's the problem. Like, we find pro wrestlers in this world, the ones that are smart enough to find people that are excited to do stuff. So that's what I keep my eyes on, the people that I deem very smart from the merchandise side of the business, because when it comes to pro wrestling, unless you are signed to a lavish contract, you do not make money off of pro wrestling. You make money off of what you make of pro wrestling. And that comes from all aspects, from the moment that you get to the building and you confirm how much you're getting paid to be booked, to also the merchandise that you are selling. And that is what I try to, like, when I saw his design, I was like, in that time frame, I was thinking, all I'm going to try to do is capitalize on what I think is cool in pro wrestling. And when I think of t-shirts and different designs, I can ask someone to create anything. And that's the possibilities of what an artist or an illustrator can do. I can say, this is my idea, and this is what I kind of want it to be. Can you make this come to fruition? And if you can, here's money. Take my money, and I just want to make a print or something and turn it into a t-shirt or an 8x10 or whatever it might be. And when you see someone that's talented enough out there, all I do, and I've got plenty of left on reds where I'll just reach out to a random person. I will search on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, like open commissions. And I see people that are absolutely stunning artists, but if they don't have a connection to pro wrestling and I throw an idea at them, they might be like, I don't care what this guy wants. Like, that's not my bag. That's not what I want to do. So like, whatever, it doesn't matter if I have money or not. If someone doesn't want to come up or help me with what's in my brain, like it's a waste of time. And when I reached out to Rivers and was like, hey man, I saw what you did. This is very cool, to get a message back from someone who is like gracious, receptive, excited to talk to you. That's all you can ask for, because all of us have 24 hours in a day. Lots of us make ourselves as busy as we can. And I can sit back and say, you know what, here's my ideas. No pushy time frame. You have your music stuff. You got your drawing. You got your personal life. Whenever you can make things happen, awesome. And everything I've ever got from the man, I get the message back and I go, nailed it. Love it.
This guy's putting me over. There we go.
I sell the prints so easily. People always love
good.
The artwork.
I'm glad that they're selling, because I was like, God, I hope he sells some t-shirts off the back of it.
No, you're absolutely fine. I have invested plenty of my time and my money towards him, and every dollar I've put towards him, I have got tenfold back, because there's probably a lot of artists out there that could charge double what they do, and they're worth every single penny of it. But I think a lot of us have kind of this imposter syndrome, and when someone goes, hey, how much do you want, you're just kind of like, I don't know, and you almost like undercut yourself because you don't believe what you're capable of. And it took me, I would say, I probably even still undercut myself in professional wrestling. But I also know, like, I shouldn't ask a promoter for this big amount of money because I'm nothing big. Like, give me a merch table spot, let me sell my stuff, and let me get over so that way I can come back. That's what I'm banking on. But when I look at my career that I cultivated when I was doing DJ stuff, I would get a flat rate if I DJ'd at a nightclub, not a big deal. But when people reach out to you and they would start asking, hey, have you ever thought about doing weddings? And I thought, well, that sounds kind of fun. I don't know how easy that is. And then once you get one or two under your belt, you realize how much pressure is on you as someone who's on that day in charge of something very, very special. And I got to a certain point where I don't do it a lot now. And if someone asks me, I just have a flat dollar amount. I say, if you will pay me this amount, I will do it. And I will only do it under this scenario, A, B, and C. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you want to pay me that amount of money and follow these rules, I'll do it. In the amount of times that people are like, oh yeah, that's fine. I'm like, okay, it's your amount of money. I go, I will give you a day as long as you give me that dollar amount. And I promise I will perform the way that you want. But once you get to a certain level, I feel like that's what people kind of say. They reach their mark where they're like, you know what? I love this, but I'm not going to do it somewhere unless someone pays me this dollar amount.
Exactly.
Because like, I have to know that I'm getting my return on investment. And I'm tired of telling people like, maybe this or maybe that. Like, nope, you give me this flat dollar amount, I'll knock it out of the ballpark, but you're going to pay me.
Yet again, the smartest man in pro wrestling. That's just straight there. I mean, that was like a TED talk.
Taking this advice, because they've got this attitude with the music and you know, and the t-shirts and whatnot. So you'll still get your mates' rates, JT. You'll still get like me, you know? But everyone else, I'm charging through the nose, you know. Absolutely.
Yeah. Once JT Energy puts you over, your rates go up.
Yeah, you just gave him the rub. You know, he can charge double his commission now.
All my friends who come into pro wrestling and they go, hey, where do you get all these designs made? I'm like, well, you can hit up these artists, and then I should slide into artist DMs and be like, hey, I'm sending people your way. You charge them double what I get. I'm hooking you up. You help me, I'll send you all the people. You double charge them, baby.
And you'll take a small profit from that as well, I'm sure. Yeah.
And like, and I don't try to be too much of a like, I don't get greedy about stuff, because I also understand like I want to spread the love across all the artist spectrum. So I've come to Rivers, but I've also like established a small relationship with, I don't know, like 5 or 6 artists, because I've had such good luck with them that every now and then I'm like, hey, I haven't shot this guy a message in a while. Let me see if he's available and wants to do something. And every time I come back to them, because they're always so gracious, they're easy to work with, they turn around and I'm like, why wouldn't I continue? Because that's the thing, people are using their spectrum of art to create what I'm asking for. And I guarantee if I ask 7 different artists to make me one thing, I'm going to get 7 different versions of it. And that's what's so cool about it. And that's why I like to jump around to people. The girl that I worked with most recently, I just found her on Twitter. She started making these very cool pictures of these AEW superstars. Her handle's at Mel Coleman Art on
I've heard of, yes,
right,
amazing.
So she made these crazy pictures of Kenny Omega, Ruby Soho, William Regal, and I saw him and I was just like, I was taken aback. I was like, who is this person? Where did they come from? But she just loves wrestling and she put out art. And I was like, my mind's blown. And in my head, I'm like, I have to get in her DMs right now. And I have to ask, because once these take off, she's going to double, triple her rate. She's going to get more popular because the art is amazing. And when I messaged her and I gave her my idea, she's like, yep, it would just be this dollar amount and whatever. And to be honest, it's the highest I've ever paid for a design, but I knew I had to pay that dollar amount to get what I saw her creating through these other superstars. And I knew that she would retweet my stuff, that she would be just on there and people would see all these AEW superstars, and then every now and then they would see my drawing or my art thrown in with that same mix of people. And I'm like, this is the best way to do it, because I have to be associated with what people are seeing that's current and fun. And if you can throw yourself in the mix and find someone who's really fun to work with and is able to cultivate those ideas, like when I got my art back, I was taken aback. I was like, I can't believe there are so many cool people in the world that love professional wrestling that just want to do this for us.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think people that are in pro wrestling understand that if you want to design, you just message somebody. You don't have to know them at all. That's how you start the conversation. If you want to get on a podcast, you just shoot them a DM. Say, hey, I'm so-and-so. I have no idea if you have any openings, but I'm from here, and this is my story. I'd love to be a part of it. Every message I've ever sent to a podcast is saying, this is my name. This is where I'm from. I'd love to earn the opportunity to be a part of your podcast. If you'd ever have me in the future, thank you. This is my name. And that's it. I don't ask anything at all. I just want to tell them, just like I would tell a wrestling promoter, I want to earn the opportunity to be a part of your show, whether you have 100 followers or 10,000 followers. Like, you have to tell people that you just want to be gracious.
You did say that. You completely did. The first time we spoke, you did just introduce yourself and said, I'd like to come on if that's okay with you guys. And of course we did. We jumped at the opportunity. But that is true. You really do message everybody with that same respect. And, like you said, you earn the opportunity to do it. And I think that's amazing, because I can tell you that is the only time that has happened with us. The only time someone's reached out to us to come on and actually said, I'd love to come on if that's okay with you guys, is with you, JT Energy. That hasn't happened with anybody else.
And this is why JT Energy can be an over baby face.
Exactly.
Because he can show up, he can beat somebody's ass, but then he can also go to the merchandise table. And my favorite experience is I try to put myself in the shoes of what I was when I was a little kid, right? Because I fell in love with pro wrestling for a certain reason, for what I got to see as a spectacle. And when I think to myself, every live event I ever went to, what did I want? What was the experience that I was like dying for every single time? And if I have a little kid who comes up to my table and their parents like are there and they're smiling or whatever, and someone goes, oh, this is so-and-so, it's their first pro wrestling event, I will immediately stop them, and I will find something that's in front of me and I will just give it to their kid.
Mm-hmm.
No ifs, ands, or buts. If it's your first pro wrestling event, I am the memory that you are going to remember. And I try to establish that immediately, because I want you to have a thing that the first time you came to pro wrestling, I was the one, good or bad guy. Like, it instantly goes out the table. I don't care if you think I'm good or bad. I'm going to make sure that you remember me at your first pro wrestling event, because you'll remember the matches. But when it comes to those scenarios where I'm meeting people, shaking hands, doing autographs, pictures, whatever, like, I listen to why you were there, and I try to make that connection to understand why it's important to you. Or if you haven't been to pro wrestling in a long time and someone comes up to me and they go, oh my God, you were so amazing. And I know they're talking about that in the essence of the way that I entertained them, or the way that I jaw jacked with the crowd or did whatever. And so all those people I try to completely respect, because I am their Saturday night. I am their choice that they made, whether they wanted to go to the movies, to a concert, they chose pro wrestling. And I don't care if it was $10, $20, whatever it was, I have to make sure those people leave happy, because I want them coming back, and I want them to come back to see me. I'm trying to cultivate that fan base to say, you know what, JT Energy, maybe he's not that bad a guy. And when people come in, I'm not missing people that want to high five, want to shake hands, want to take a selfie, want to whatever. If someone comes up to my merch table, just not too long ago, I had hats made, and there's a mom and a little girl, and the girl was like rifling through her wallet, right? And the mom's like, how much are the hats? And I'm like, $30. It was my last hat. And the girl like pulls out X amount of dollars. She looks up at her mom. She like shakes her head. And I just stopped her. I go, how much do you have? And she's like, I think she said like $12. And I said, here. I go, $12 is what you get for last one. It's yours. And like, you could tell the mom like stopped and like couldn't believe like I just gave it to him for like that. And I'm like, no, this is what pro wrestling is supposed to be. You're supposed to go somewhere and someone is supposed to do something where you're like blown away. You can't believe people. It's same idea, like pay it forward at Starbucks or whatever.
Yeah.
Do something for someone that they don't expect, because it creates those memories that should last for a long time. It should create that person talking about our event to someone else. And that's what I think we all just have to respect.
I think this interview, I think this is the official face turn. Yeah, I'm sold. There's no way you're getting booed after this interview is released. I mean, this is the official face turn of JT Energy right now on Ringsiders. Yeah. After that start, how am I meant to ever boo you again after you did that for a chat? I mean,
that's the problem. When you become such a great heel and you turn to this baby face, people are so excited for you to be a babyface, but they never forget that you were a heel, and they know that someday you could hug their favorite pro wrestler, and then you could kick them right in the balls and be right back to being the worst heel in the world. But they don't want that. They really don't. But after a certain amount of time, I've been a bad guy for the most part for like 6 years now, and I don't know if I'm going to be a good guy or whatever for 6 years, but those people, they're probably going to sit there and go, oh, I hope he doesn't go back to being a bad guy anytime soon.
He probably will, though.
Yeah. So all the people that come up to me and they go, man, you're such a good heel. Those are the people that I have to turn, and I have to be like, yeah, but I can be just as good a baby face. And it doesn't have to be the over the top, come on, I'm the good guy type stuff. It just has to be fun. And as long as it's fun, then people don't care. Like, when I came out with my Mr. gun, for the longest time, people are like, oh, gross, what is that? Or whatever. But like, there's still plenty of fans that are like, oh, spray me, missed me. And that's all I have to do now. Like, I'll have to turn, I can spray somebody in the face with a little bit of water, and they're like, yeah, he sprayed me. Like, it's the dumb thing that I do that nobody else does.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. Before we start to wrap up on that note, we did mention Rivers previously in his music. I just want to give a shout out on November 3rd. Rivers is dropping Devil's Backbone on Spotify. If you do like blues music or you're interested in Rivers music, make sure you check it out. November 3rd on Spotify, Devil's Backbone. JT as well, do you have anything you'd like to plug, promote, any upcoming events that you want to get out there?
Yeah, sure. So I do have upcoming events. I will be wrestling in, sadly, nowhere close to you guys, but right, I know, right here in Iowa. I will be in Waterloo this upcoming weekend. I will be making my debut for a group called Absolute Pro Wrestling. I believe the date is
AEW.
No, I wish it was AEW. That's Absolute Intense Wrestling. That's in Ohio.
Okay, right.
I would anybody that listens at AEW, I would love to come and drive to Ohio. I've never wrestled into Ohio, and I understand it. Maybe you don't want to take a chance on a guy, but let me just come do it once. If I suck, guess what? You never got to book me again. But I promise, I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to create any drama. I will be there on time. You won't have to pay insanity rates. I'm a good guy to book. I promise. I'm a mature adult to book. But yes, I have APW coming up. The weekend after that, SCW Pro. That is where I recently turned babyface. I will be wrestling there. We are going to make our debut in Bluegrass. Bluegrass is a little town right here, just on the outskirts of the Quad Cities. So I have my APW debut. I have a big match coming up for SCW Pro. When we jump forward to December, I haven't announced it anywhere yet, but I've been in talks. I am going to get an opportunity to do my very first in-store meet and greet at a local business. So I'm very excited about that.
Nice.
Just to have the opportunity to have people come out and talk with me. So I have, it's going to be at kind of like a nostalgia store that sells all things pop culture. So I'm going to get a whole bunch of my pop culture collection, and I'm going to be selling not only my merchandise, but also things from my personal collection that I'm going to part with, whether it be records, comic books, loose action figures, all different types of stuff that I've been sitting on for a long time that I'm going to see if anybody wants to take in their own personal collection. Otherwise, just follow my social media. I'm always trying to grow stuff, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, all that fun stuff. I just try to put content out on a pretty consistent basis for anybody who gives me any amount of time in their life for whatever reason it might be. I don't garner a insane amount of followers, but the people that do follow me, I hope that I'm just as entertaining as you think I am. You can always support me on prowrestlingtees.com/JT Energy, where you can pick up many designs by Rivers here, who has designed them for me. And I'm sure soon enough, I'll be sliding right back in his DM saying, hey, I don't know the next time you have any breaks, but I have some money. I'd love to throw it at you, man.
And he will take it. As DJ Click and Play, right, on socials?
Yeah, everything's at DJ Click and Play. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'll ever be able to be at JT Energy because there's an actual company called JT Energy.
Yes, yeah.
I don't think they have a whole lot of followers. I don't want their company to go over, but the day that comes available, I hope that they just deactivate their stuff and I can find it right away and I can just be at JT Energy on everything. That would be too easy. So it's probably not going to happen. So I'll continually be at DJ Click and Play, probably for the rest of my life. And as long as you search DJ Click and Play or JT Energy or the Unsolved Mystery or the 6-Star Booty, you'll find me in some way, shape, or form. I guarantee if you give me a Google, just JT Energy, I wait till the pictures pop up. I promise you'll know me right away. You'll know me.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on again, man. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Glad you got to speak to Rivers for the first time after all these years.
Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, let's do it again soon. It's always great catching up with you because you've always done so much in between the last time speaking. So it'll be great to catch up with you again in the future. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Hey, some point in the future, I'm going to be married. And my fiance has specifically asked that our honeymoon is that I'm coming to Paris. That's probably as close as you're going to get me to anytime soon. So
we can do that. We can work with that.
Someday, if there's maybe a pro wrestling event that weekend, if I bring my gear, maybe somebody in Paris can watch JT Energy get his ass kicked.
Mate,
I know you
trust. We'll get you booked somewhere.
You guys can.
We can do
you
that.
guys can sponsor the match.
Yes,
and then we can watch JT Energy, the mean old American, come over and just watch him get his ass kicked for everybody right there. So someday in the near future, I'm sure I'll be heading to the UK, and I will go ahead.
It's not far, Paris.
Let all my friends know, like, hey guys, just so you know, I might be in the area. Even if it's not for wrestling, at least maybe I can get some hugs and high fives, and we'll have a face-to-face experience.
I'll come crash your honeymoon in Paris. It'll be fine. I can hang out.
Yeah, of course. Rivers, what do you mean? You're the best man.
I'm like the best friends. What are you talking about? Why are you in my hotel room? I'm sorry, I'm leaving. I'm going.
Oh man.
Yeah, thank you so much again for coming on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Cheers. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you.